This is Antwerp's Port House, a truly unforgettable building that could actually be the solution to one of the massive dilemmas facing Europe today. You see, the continent's cities have a problem. More people than ever are moving from the countryside into urban areas. In fact, by 2050, more than 83% of Europe's entire population will be living in cities. And that's putting serious pressure on space. Europe's major urban centres are already built, and they have been for quite some time. So how would you expand a place that's already full of buildings? Well, we're starting to see some clever ideas, but this one in particular really has risen up above the rest. This is the incredible story of a Star Architects' final masterpiece, of a gravity-defying feat of engineering, and of how a 1500-year-old city is facing up to its 21st century destiny. Welcome to Europe's gateway, Antwerp, Belgium. 290 million tonnes of international freight pass through here every 12 months, generating more than 12 billion euros for the country. It's the second largest port on the continent, and it accounts for more than 26% of all Europe's container shipping. From here, ships go out to more than 800 cities worldwide. Over the last few decades, Antwerp's become one of our planet's fastest growing container ports. Back in 2010, a €1.6 billion 15-year investment plan was approved to keep up with shipping demands and modernise the 12 kilometres of docks that stretch through the city. The Port Authority desperately needed additional facilities, and at the very top of its list was new office space for a mere 500 employees. A massive building by any measure. This would be the Port House. But to call it office space really isn't doing it justice. Antwerp's enormous success had allowed the city to build something truly bold and ostentatious, a symbol of all the port has achieved. And when you think bold and ostentatious, you think Zaha Hadid.
Dame Zaha Hadid designed buildings that could look as fluid as mercury while appearing as light as a leaf.
I think she has added an enormous amount of language to architecture. She's devised shapes that we never thought that we could do.
There was an obsession with historicism, a vernacular, so the idea of new was almost alien.
The architecture studio, then headed by the famous Starchitects, won an international competition to design the site. But there was already something there, a then derelict but heritage-protected firehouse from the 1920s. It couldn't be demolished, all the facades were important, and there wasn't room to build around it. So Hadid thought outside the box. Well, up and above the box, to be precise. Her team envisioned an enormous office building sitting on top of the fire station like some kind of bejeweled hat.
My name is Joris Pauwels. I am Associate Director at Zaha Hadid Architects. I was responsible for the design and construction of the Antwerp Port House on Zaha Hadid Architects' side. For us, this juxtaposition between the existing building and the new building is really working, hand in glove. As together they operate as one building, and they kind of reinforce the identity of each other.
To stop the structure from crushing the firehouse below, two enormous concrete columns were designed to support it. The port house would then sit on top of those two new legs, crouching over the existing firehouse but not touching it. In fact, the only intersection between the old and new would be an elevator shaft connecting the two very different eras. One of these legs is hidden inside the courtyard of the building, while the other stands just outside, but both are plainly visible to the porthouse's inhabitants, with the outer column becoming a dramatic feature. Instead of concealing the ingenious engineering behind the building, Hadid and her team have included it in the design so that we can all marvel at these enormous columns supporting such an immense weight.
The challenge lies in the structural design. So underneath, there is a connection between the two pylons in the ground, the foundation beam that connects them, and the bridge which sits between new and old building it forms the connection in the air that creates the ring, that closes the ring, if you like, the structural ring. So that ring is really the golden egg to make this structure work.
Once the legs were in place, the main building was assembled on top of them. This consisted of a complex steel structure made of prefabricated trusses. They were brought to the site by barge, then lifted into place on top of the legs in sections, one by one, before being welded together. These steel trusses ensured the porthouse was light enough to be supported by the columns and hover over the firehouse below. Next came the rippling facade, made up of hundreds of glass triangles. It's intended to evoke the waves of the surrounding sea that made Antwerp so wealthy, and the diamond industry that the city's famous for.
We wanted to express the static dignity of the existing building, and by contrasting that with a volume above that is very dynamic, fluid, that has this ephemeral quality of reflecting the sky through its glazed panels.
Now, as you can probably imagine, this was an immensely complicated construction project. Not only were they building more than 6,000 square metres of new office space in the air above an existing building, they were also restoring an historically significant structure at the same time. Heritage projects like the Porthouse force teams to use both decades-old and brand-new building plans. And as cities continue to run out of space, these kinds of projects are likely going to become a lot more common. That means a lot of documents, data and information to keep track of, and if teams aren't ready for it, they could be dealing with a mess of different databases, applications and spreadsheets. That's where Quickbase comes in. Its software helps teams across different disciplines work together by sharing data without having to wade through scattered spreadsheets.
There are a lot of moving pieces on a large construction site, especially with the subcontractors, and there's always communication gaps there. That's a huge challenge that we face on a daily basis. Well, with Quickbase, you really gain end-to-end visibility. You can see, connect, and control the complex construction project that the general contractor is working on, and then you can see those roadblocks early on.
Building projects are only going to get more complicated, with construction teams split across many factions. Add in a recession, workforce shortages and continued supply chain delays, and you've got a serious challenge on your hands.
Historical renovations are a unique challenge all on their own in the construction industry. You have specific subcontractors you may have to use based on historical society. You have safety checklists that may or may not be suitable from a normal operation to a historical operation. Those checklists can be modified in Quickbase.
It's software like this that's enabling teams to achieve the remarkable. And the Porthouse certainly is remarkable. When it opened back in 2016, it became an almost instant icon.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope that after you have visited our new home, this magnificent and brilliant diamond ship, you will be as enthusiastic and as proud as I am.
2016 was also the year that Zaha Hadid passed away, never seeing the building completed. To this day, it remains one of her most significant pieces of work and an important part of a legacy that shaped architecture for the 21st century.
I think people were a bit were not entirely sure of what this beast of a project was going to be. Once the building got under construction, the overall reaction is very positive as far as, from taxi drivers to the client.
But while it's been wholly embraced by the architecture and construction communities, some have criticised its imposing form and interiors that they describe as an afterthought. For an office building, the space inside isn't exactly as functional as it could be. It's a structure whose primary concern appears to be how good it looks on the outside, but in all honesty, when it looks this good, maybe it's okay to be a little vain.
Often with existing buildings and heritage buildings, the first attitude or the instinctive attitude is to respect as much as possible, do very extremely minimalistic intervention, and that can be beautiful and work very well at times. Zaha's view on this building was layering of the city. A built environment is a kind of continuous process where things are added, and that's very much how we approached the design.
The Porthouse shows us that it's okay to not just restore historical buildings exactly as they were, but to play with them, to bring them into the modern world. This building is now an icon. Tours are booked out months in advance, and it's become a symbol of Antwerp's power as a port city. The project has perfectly blended two very different architectural styles, not by hiding their differences, but by highlighting their contrasts. This video was made possible by Quickbase. You can learn more about how it's enabling historic restoration projects like this at the link below. There's also the chance to dive deeper on this and the other topics on our channel over on the World's Best Construction Podcast, available right now wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.